The Supreme Court declined Monday to take up a case brought by Republican Kari Lake and Mark Fincham over the use of voting machines in Arizona elections, the latest blow to the duo, the not so dynamic duo, of GOP candidates who have seen their lawsuit rejected several times. Lake and Fincham asked the Supreme Court to review a federal appellate judge's decision to dismiss their case last October. The suit sought to block electronic voting machines from being used in the state, questioning their accuracy and reliability. Lawyers for Lake, who is running for a Senate seat in Arizona this cycle, and Fincham, who is seeking a state Senate seat, argued in the court filing to the Supreme Court that they had sufficiently argued that all Arizona certified optical scanners and ballot marking devices, as well as the software in which they rely, have been wrongly certified for use. Arizona's voting machines have been hacked and manipulated, and that there were apparent discrepancies in the Maricopa County vote count after the 2020 election. The lawsuit was filed ahead of November 2022 midterms, when Lake was running for governor and Fincham was running for Secretary of State. Both lost their elections. Their lawsuit had been rejected by a federal judge in 2022, and that dismissal was affirmed by the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals last year. On appeal, plaintiffs conceded that their arguments were limited to potential future hacking and not based on any past harm. The Ninth Circuit wrote, in the end, none of plaintiffs' allegations support a plausible inference that their individual votes in future elections will be adversely affected by the use of electronic tabulation, particularly given the robust safeguards in Arizona law, the use of paper ballots, and the post-tabulation retention of those ballots, it added. The Supreme Court's decision to decline to revisit the federal court's decision puts a cap on Lake and Fincham's lawsuit. We are obviously disappointed the U.S. Supreme Court decided not to review the decisions of the Arizona District Court and the Ninth Court and order that our challenge to the 2022 election procedures be heard on the merits. Kurt Olson, one of the attorneys that sought to get the Supreme Court to consider the case, said in a statement, he has argued new information came to light after the case was dismissed by the Circuit Court. Although the Supreme Court grants review in less than 1% of cases presented on petition, we believe we presented a case. The Kari Lake and Mark Fincham case was dismissed based on a purported lack of standing to assert an injury, Olson wrote. Therefore, the courts even now have not ruled on the merits of our case. We will continue to raise these issues, especially in light of the upcoming 2024 election. Republicans, including Lake, Fincham, and former President Trump, have sought to cast doubt about the 2020 and 2022 election results of states including Arizona, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, though these election results have consistently been upheld. Oh, where do we begin? Well, we always talk about the grift, right? So how Lake doesn't actually believe the Arizona election was stolen. And we know that because, I mean, if she did, she wouldn't run again for another office in the same state that is so fraudulent and biased against Republicans, even though they held elections and ruled that state with an iron fist for, 50, 60 years of electoral politics. But I digress. So we know she's just doing this to get some money, get some attention. But what I always find so interesting is that when these people actually have to go in front of a judge or go to court, you don't see any of the BS that they play out in their interviews and other public appearances. On appeal, plaintiffs conceded that their arguments were limited to potential future hacking and not based on any past harm. So that was Lake, and I don't know the other person as well. He hasn't been in the news as much. Fincham. That was Lake and Fincham admitting, we know that our past losses, which includes Lake's 2022 gubernatorial loss to Katie Hobbs, was a loss. We were defeated, but we're worried that this fraud might get us in the next election. And obviously what it is that they're both aware to some extent that there is a very strong likelihood that neither of them is going to be successful in their attempts at winning an election this time around. So to dodge having to take responsibility for crappy positions, a lousy candidacy, a bad campaign, they have to say, oh, well, we want to make sure that the election results go well this time so that if there is any potential hacking, it doesn't affect the upcoming election that we're involved in. And they took that and threw it out. They said, get out of here. And just, you see that, I have to admit, the lawyers, they can be very determined when they decide to be. Uh, Although Supreme Court grants review, we believe we presented a case. Uh, the case was dismissed based on a purported lack of standing to a certain injury. Therefore, the courts, even now, have not ruled out the merits of our case. It's like, no, they actually have. They've said if this has never happened, certainly in recent times, your lack of evidence is going to convince us that we don't need to worry about this in the upcoming election, because you tried that first say that there was a hack in 2022 and in 2020. None of that was true. So we're not going to waste our time with another one of these. What was it, the third election in a row that you're trying to say might be rigged or is rigged? Because you yourself, when you spoke to us behind closed doors without the cameras around, admitted it wasn't rigged. Neither 2020 when Trump lost or when you lost 2 years later. This is funny, like the lawyers like they don't dismiss that this is something that could. It's like, no, they're saying that you guys already admitted you don't have any evidence that this happened in the last two cycles. You're worried about it happening this time, really for no damn reason other than just we need to keep the grift going. So I'm glad their stuff got thrown out. I wish that lawyers were more honest. I know that that's not their thing, but it's like, at when does it stop? Like, it's bad enough the voters get tricked and duped by this nonsense of, oh, it was rigged, it was stolen from me, I have no proof, but believe me. But then it's like you want the courts to sit here and spin their wheels over something that, like, they're fully aware has not happened and is probably not going to happen. Just, we need to keep the grift going. Oh, we're fighting this in the courts. Send us more money so we can keep fighting this and stop the election from being stolen. Oh, Jesus, it's sad. American politics has turned into a reality show with a lot of just no actual concern for addressing the problems of people. Just theatrics designed to get your name in the paper, right? Lake doesn't have anything that she can report. Every other Lake story is like unanimously bad for her. Well, actually, all of them are, but this one is like the least bad. We had the story with her talking about the Trump supporters are armed, and then there was another one where she mentioned, or rather her position on Roe v. Wade, or some law in Arizona switched. There's a lot of stuff with her, and this is not good for her either. It's just not as bad as the rest of it. So a lot of the stuff that they do is purposely designed just to keep their name in the paper. So she'll lose like 10 lawsuits just to have her name printed, and people will be like, oh yeah, I remember that's the lady that lost the other election, and now she's saying that this one's being rigged too. Because anytime they don't win, anytime they win, free and fair election. Anytime they lose, it was rigged. Don't ask me how. It was rigged.